I had always admired my boss's brother from afar. Ethan was everything I was: confident, successful, with a casual charm that made people gravitate toward him. He visited the office now and then to meet with his brother James, and every time, he left me feeling both invisible and strangely restless. I had no reason to think he'd ever notice someone like me. I was just an ordinary guy focusing on my work and trying to build a future. But then everything changed one Friday evening. It was late and the office was nearly empty. I was sorting through some reports, trying to wrap up before the weekend. I hadn't even noticed Ethan until he appeared at the door of the conference room, leaning against the frame with a casual ease that made my heart skip a beat. "Hey," he said, his voice low and smooth. "Burning the midnight oil." "I see." I glanced up, my heart pounding. "Yeah. Just finishing up," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "What about you?" "Here to see James?" "Not really," he shrugged, walking in and sitting on the edge of the table. "Actually, I was hoping to run into you." I froze, my mind racing. "He was here for me?" Ethan smirked, as if reading my thoughts. "James talks about you a lot," he continued. "Says you're one of the best employees he's ever had." I felt a flush creep up my neck. "Well, that's flattering," I managed to say, feeling a mix of nerves and confusion. What was happening? "How about a drink?" he suggested suddenly. His eyes locked onto mine. "I know a place nearby. Unless you have plans?" Before I knew it, we were at a small bar down the street. The place was dimly lit, with the low hum of conversation and soft music playing in the background. We sat in a corner booth, Ethan ordering us drinks with an easy confidence. I tried to relax, but it was hard with him sitting so close, his knee brushing against mine at the table. So he began swirling his drink in his hand. "What's it like watching for my brother?" I shrugged, feeling oddly self-conscious. "It's good. He's a great boss. Fair but demanding." I glanced at him, wondering why he was so interested in my thoughts. "And you?" I asked, attempting to shift the focus. "What do you do when you're not swooping into offices and stealing away unsuspecting employees?" He laughed, a rich, warm sound that made my stomach flip. "Not much," he admitted, leaning back in his seat. "Work mostly. Traveling. I try to keep busy." We talked for hours, the conversation flowing more easily than I expected. He was charming, funny, and surprisingly down to earth. I found myself laughing, feeling the tension melt away as the night wore on. By the time he left the bar, I realized that I didn't want the evening to end. Outside, the cool night air hit me, bringing me back to reality. Well, I began awkwardly shoving my hands into my pockets. "Thanks for the drink. It was nice." "Nice?" he echoed, raising an eyebrow. "Just nice?" He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "Would you like to come over to my place for I typed?" My heart hammered in my chest. This was happening too fast. I don't think that's a good idea," I stammered, taking a step back. "You're my boss's brother and I don't want to complicate things." He watched me for a moment, then nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Fair enough," he said, his voice softening. "But I'm not giving up that easily." Over the next few weeks, Ethan was everywhere. He started showing up at the office more frequently, finding reasons to talk to me, to brush his hand against mine as we passed in the hallway. It was maddening how much he affected me. I kept reminding myself that he was off limits, that nothing good could come from getting involved with him. But my resolve was crumbling each time he smiled at me. Each time he leaned in just a bit too close. One afternoon, I was in the break room, lost in thought as I made a cup of coffee. I didn't hear him come in until he was standing right behind me, his breath warm against my ear. "Miss me?" he murmured, his voice sending a shiver down my spine. I turned around, trying to put on a brave face. "Ethan, whatever this is, it needs to stop," I said, though my voice wavered. He tilted his head, his eyes glinting with amusement. He asked simply, "Because you're scared? Because you think it's too complicated?" I swallowed, looking away. "Yes," I admitted, my heart pounding in my chest. Yes to all of it. Ethan sighed, his expression softening. Look, I get it, he said quietly, stepping back. I know it's not easy. But he hesitated, running a hand through his hair. I like you. And I think you like me too. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. He was right. I did like him. But I also knew how messy things could get if we took this any further. I need time, I whispered, opening my eyes to meet his gaze. To figure this out. Take all the time you need, he replied, his voice steady. I'll be here when you're ready. Weeks turned into months, and Ethan kept his word. He didn't push, didn't try to rush me. But he was always there waiting, watching, giving me space while making it clear that he hadn't given up on us. We continued to have coffee breaks together, late-night conversations in the office, and shared glances that sent my heart racing. One evening, after another long day, we found ourselves in the office lounge, the city lights casting a soft glow through the windows. Ethan leaned against the counter, his eyes fixed on me. Come out with me, he said, suddenly breaking the silence. Just for a walk. No pressure. I hesitated, then nodded. Okay, I'll walk. We left the office, the cool night air wrapping around us as we walked side by side through the quiet streets. We didn't talk much, just walked in comfortable silence. It felt right, being with him like this, no pretense, no expectations. Do you ever think about the future? He asked quietly, glancing over at me. I shrugged, shoving my hands into my pockets. Sometimes. Mostly. I just try to get through each day. He nodded, his gaze thoughtful. Yeah. Me too. Then he stopped walking, turning to face me. But I also think about you. About us. And what it could be like if we stopped pretending this wasn't happening. My heart skipped a beat, his words hitting me like a freight train. Ethan, I started, but the words died in my throat. I was terrified, torn between what I wanted and what I was afraid of. You don't have to say anything, he murmured, stepping closer. Just think about it. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling as his words replayed in my mind. It would be risky getting involved with him. If things went south, it could ruin everything: my job, my friendship with his brother, my sense of stability. But then again, what was life without taking risks? The next morning, I made up my mind. I found Ethan in the office lounge talking with James. My heart pounded as I approached them, my nerves threatening to derail me. But when he saw me, his eyes softened and I felt a rush of warmth. Can we talk? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. He nodded, excusing himself from the conversation. We walked to a quiet corner of the building, the tension building between us. I've thought about it. I began, taking a deep breath. I don't want to keep pretending. I like you, Ethan. And maybe that's messy and complicated, but I don't care anymore. A smile spread across his face, his eyes lighting up with hope. Finally, he murmured, stepping forward to wrap his arms around me. I thought you'd never say it. From that moment, we decided to take things slow. We spent more time together exploring the city, learning each other's quirks, and building something real. It wasn't easy. We had to navigate the boundaries of our work life and our personal lives and the constant concern of what his brother would think. But we managed day by day. Eventually, we couldn't hide our relationship anymore. James found out, and to my surprise, he wasn't angry. Just don't screw this up, he warned me with a smirk. If you hurt him, you'll have me to answer to. I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and responsibility. I won't. I promise. Our relationship continued to grow, built on trust, respect, and a little bit of risk. Ethan pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I anchored him when things got tough. We found a balance, a rhythm that made the chaos of life feel a little less overwhelming. Looking back, I realize now that I almost let fear keep me from something beautiful. But by taking a chance, I found not just love, but a part of myself I didn't know existed. And that made every messy, complicated moment worth it.